Hello, my dear friends. Here we are once again at your own channel related with English literature, that is Lit ECT. Friends, these days we are trying to solve some quizzes based on literary theory. In the last session, we saw some questions on post-colonialism and feminism, and in this session we will have 10 more questions related with post-war literary theory. So without wasting any more time in formalities, let's roll to our questions which are based on current literary theories. Okay friends, our first question, basically it is very important question because it talks about the beginning of this system of literary theory of the 20th century. My question is, in his inaugural address as Oxford Professor of Poetry, this eminent man of letters called for an intellectual deliverance. Note the term intellectual deliverance from the impatient irritation of mind. These are some very important terms, my friends, and that arises in the face of the immense, moving, confused spectacle. Look, all these adjectives of the modern age. The name of this writer critic is, you can understand two things, that the writer is basically Oxford Professor of Poetry. Second thing is his, basically we can say, disenchantment towards the modernity. Now you have to identify among these whether it is whom we called the first great critique of modernity, Matthew Arnold, or is it Cecil de Lewis, or is it A.C. Bradley, or Robert Graves. All these writers, my friends, all these critics and writers, they have at one time or other held this esteemed post of Oxford Professor of Poetry. You have to identify the right answer, and yes, many of you have guessed it right. It is, my friends, Matthew Arnold. We all know that how critical he was of the modernity and the mechanized version of the world. He is basically a source of inspiration for many later critics like T.S. Eliot, and he basically called this immense, moving, confused spectacle, this spectacle of the modern world, or the rapidly industrializing modern world. Okay, going to our next question, and this one is quite important. Many times in NET such questions have been asked from the books written by Matthew Arnold. In his critically acclaimed work Culture and Anarchy. Look, Matthew Arnold was a poet and also he was an eminent critic. He has penned many books related with how to evaluate literature, that is his touchstone method. Then he has talked about the value of literature in the present society, and he places literature, or especially poetry, on such a high pedestal as that of religion itself. He has also written this work Culture and Anarchy, and he criticized in this particular book the unthinking sectarianism, how we divide the world into small sectors using three terms: barbarians, Philistines, and populace. These three terms are three metaphors for three sections of the society, and he basically call for a denunciation of these kind of societies. Now we have to find out this second metaphor, Philistine, for which particular class this term stands for according to Arnold in his book Culture and Anarchy. Side by side I must tell you, Culture and Anarchy ही वो book थी दोस्तों जिसके अंदर Matthew Arnold gave a famous metaphor of culture as something which is like bee giving us wax for light and honey for sweetness. ये obviously we know Battle of Books के अंदर already Swift compare कर चुके थे ancient writers को. Matthew Arnold also used this analogy. Okay, for our answer it is basically middle class society, which he terms as Philistines, and which he castigates most severely because of their attitude of utilitarianism, because of their complacency towards the decline of culture. इन सब चीज़ों की वजह से जो आर्नल्ड है इस मिडल क्लास जो अपराइजिंग क्लास थी उस समय की, he was a severe critic of their attitude. Moving towards our next question, friends, it is about once again J.L. Austin. I have already discussed Austin in some of our classes. Now this question asks that Austin introduces a distinction among the locutionary, illocutionary and perlocutionary components of an utterance. Now according to J.L. Austin, there are three types of an utterance can be divided into three components: locutionary, illocutionary and perlocutionary, and we have to find out which among these is designated as a performative speech act. देखिए मेरे कुछ अर्लियर लेसन्स के अंदर एक दो क्वेश्चन परफॉर्मेटिव स्पीच एक्ट के ऊपर आ चुके हैं, एंड वी हैव समटाइम्स आल्सो डिस्कस्ड अबाउट इट दैट व्हाट बेसिकली इज अ परफॉर्मेटिव स्पीच एक्ट. हमें ये आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि आउट ऑफ दीज थ्री कंपोनेंट्स विच वन इज बेसिकली परफॉर्मेटिव एक्ट, whether it is locutionary, illocutionary or both locutionary or illocutionary or perlocutionary. And my friends, answer is obviously illocutionary, which is used to perform an action by speech. That is why it is called a performative speech act. Okay friends, moving towards a next question, which is about postmodernism and one of its key writers, Jean Baudrillard. Simulation, the name, it is name of a very important book related with postmodernism. In this book, Baudrillard it is the book which is often cited as his most influential account of postmodernity. In this book, he argues there are three orders of appearance which have followed each other since Renaissance. First order is counterfeit, which was the dominant scheme of the classical period. This basically counterfeit is the classical period. Then production, it is basically this order of appearance. It was the dominant scheme of the industrial era. And what is the name for the dominant scheme of the postmodern era? You have to identify the name of the order he uses to define the postmodern era. For classical period he uses counterfeit, for industrial he uses production, and we have to find out what is the dominant scheme of the postmodern era. So friends, answer it may be from, is it signifier or signified or simulation or dissimulation? Okay friends, the answer, as we can make a guess even by the name of the book, it is the simulation. And I hope you know very well his concept of simulacra, his concept of what basically he means by simulation, and how we are living in an age which have all copies without an original, which is his basic concept of simulacra. If you are not aware of this fact, aware of this concept, I suggest that you must study Jean Baudrillard for better understanding of the postmodern condition, which is coincidentally the name of one of his books also. Okay, for next question, Barbara Herrnstein Smith, she coined this term to critique the notion of relativism. Relativism is a critical approach basically which implies that all opinions are equally valid according to relative importance. But Barbara Herrnstein Smith critiqued this concept by calling it a kind of fallacy. उन्होंने इस चीज़ को एक fallacy की तरह compare करा है we have to find out what is the term she uses for this fallacy. ये fallacy कि when we consider that all opinions in one relative context or other relative context they are equally valid, whether she call it relative fallacy, affective fallacy, pathetic fallacy or egalitarian fallacy. Okay, I hope you all understand these two, affective and pathetic fallacy, which are related with new criticism. What we must understand this time, and we should not fall into that trap, it is not relative fallacy, my friends, it is egalitarian fallacy which she talks about. Friends, I always request you to upvote, like, share these videos if you find them worthy of your time, and if you need PDFs, any PDF for your guidance, PDF of the quizzes or the notes of critical theory and cultural theory, you can always contact me on WhatsApp. Okay, let's move forward for our work. Question number 6. The Yale School, which is known for its work on deconstruction theory, it published an essay anthology, Deconstruction and Criticism. Who among these did not contributed in this anthology? देखिए 3-4 key points here. First, Yale School of America, which is basically named after the university, Yale University. Yale School, it is related with deconstruction theory. Second thing, there were 5 critics associated with Yale School, and they all 5 contributed to one particular book, anthology of essays. The title of that anthology is Deconstruction and Criticism, and we have to find out which among these 4 is not one of those writers associated with that Yale School. Now, whether is it Harold Bloom, Barbara Johnson, Geoffrey Hartman or J. Hillis Miller. Okay friends, they all are very important post-structuralist critics, but they have very different approaches. The one who is not associated with the Yale School is Barbara Johnson. She was quite junior. She is basically disciple of Derrida, who was a part of this Yale School. Okay, moving ahead, question number 7. Will in the World is one of the most celebrated biographies on Shakespeare. देखिए एक और अपना key point आ गया यहाँ पर. It is in fact one of the later biographies of Shakespeare being written in 20th century. Will in the World, written in 20th century. Which eminent critic authored it? He basically used his own technique in presenting this biography. You have to identify the name of the critic, whether it is Stephen Greenblatt, Harold Bloom, M.H. Abrahams or A.C. Bradley. All these writers, 3 among these is very closely associated with the Shakespearean studies. Yes friends, answer is Stephen Greenblatt, who basically in his New Historicism, or rather he called it cultural poetics manner, he studied Shakespeare's life from this perspective and presented rather a radical biographical study of Shakespeare. Moving towards question number 8, the historicity of texts and the textuality of history. It is the key motto of the New Historicism, which is an approach of reading literature, keeping in mind that all literature have inputs from the context of history, and all histories have input context of the literature. We have to identify who coined this particular phrase, which was watchword of the all new historicist critics. Is it Stephen Greenblatt, Stephen Ogle, one of the basically we can say he was the first one to give these concepts related with New Historicism? Is it Hayden White, again very important writer associated with the New Historicist approach, or is it Louis Montrose? Okay friends, among these, this time the answer is Louis Montrose, who coined this phrase, who gave this phrase historicity of texts and the textuality of history. Question number 9 states, below are given two statements. The first one is an assertion and the second supposed to be its reason. We have to identify these two statements and discuss the relationship between one. The assertion says the new historicism theorist had a preference for the essay rather than the book length study. Okay, and the reason, which is supposed to be the reason, is an essay is essentially incomplete in its nature, offering just a glimpse of a larger narrative. Now we have to identify whether both statements are correct, and if both are correct, whether the relation between them is correct. One is an assertion and other is a reason. Okay, option is both A and R are true and R is correct explanation of A. Both A and R are true. R is not correct explanation of A. Only A is true, only B is true. Okay friend, this is basically taken from new historicist perspective, and if we look at their works, they were not in favor of writing book length studies, rather they preferred essay. So obviously first one is correct. Now they preferred essays and anecdotes. The reason behind this is that जो ऐसे होता है वो अपने आप में बेसिकली इट इज जस्ट अ ग्लिम्स, जस्ट अ पार्ट, जस्ट अ पार्शियल लुकिंग इनटू द मैटर ऑफ वन थिंग. इट गिव्स अस इंसाइट इनटू अ थिंग, बट इट डज नॉट we can say a whole study of a topic. So yes, the reason is also valid and correct. So answer is both A and R are true, and R is correct explanation of A. Okay, the last question for this session. The term used by Michel Foucault to indicate a mode of analysis of discursive formation. It is once again an important term given by Michel Foucault, and statements without assigning or seeking origins in the human science, and which invoke ideologies, beliefs and interests beyond any statement of disinterested data. देखिए डिस्कर्सिव फॉर्मेशन जो होता है उसके एनालिसिस करने के लिए वो स्टेटमेंट को विदाउट लुकिंग फॉर देयर ओरिजिन, हाउ दे आर इन ह्यूमन साइंस, बेसिकली विदाउट लुकिंग फॉर देयर वैलिडिटी, विदाउट हैविंग एनी इंटरेस्ट बियॉन्ड disinterested data, not believing, not working according to the particular cultural belief system, then we do the analysis of a particular ideology, particularly discursive formation, a particular discourse. Then we use this strategy. What is the name which he gives to this strategy? Is it discourse, archaeology, aporia, or episteme? Friends, it's very important terms. I suggest you should go very thoroughly to the theories of Michel Foucault. He is a very important writer for our understanding of the 20th century theories, especially post-structuralist theories. Answer is obviously archaeology. With this, friends, we come to the end of this session. I thank you very much for your kind support, the way you are appreciating my efforts, and I always prefer that you people help me to make these videos more worthy of your time. How should we make them better? Which things we should avoid? How to make quality better? And what more topics? I regularly get inputs about on which topic should I make videos. I apologize in advance for not giving much time on these videos, but I will try to cater your demands as much as possible, as soon as possible. Thank you, my friends.